Hello and welcome to the Emotionally Focused Therapy Podcast. My name is Michael Preston, and today I'm going to be joined not by our normal hosts, Michael Barnett and Dr. Sylvina Irwin. Instead, today is our first episode of the EFT podcast miniseries, the Supervision Tapes. This series is going to take place while Michael and Sil and myself are recording season 2 and getting it ready to be released. You can join the recording live on our Riverside studio. And if you have a question for the supervisor, you can ask the supervisor during the recording. For the link, go to our Facebook page, the Emotionally Focused Therapy Podcast. And with that, let's introduce our first supervisor.
Hello.
Hello, Annabelle. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Michael? Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. How's London treating you?
It's good. It's good. I'm just looking outside and it's not raining, so
That's always
success.
good.
Well, I just moved back in July, so
And
it's
how long were you in the US?
for 16 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm away from home.
Yeah. And then
Where
what
is
what
home?
prompted them? Yeah. Yeah, I get that. But what prompted the move back to the UK?
Well, I kind of felt like 16 years was long enough. Um,
Fair enough.
I have a daughter. She's 14.
Mm.
And for me, I wanted her to have some experience growing up around family,
Oh, yeah.
so we're back in London for a while, being around family, which feels really lovely.
Oh, that's great. Let's go ahead and get started. How about that? Yeah. Awesome. Let me just introduce Annabel Safinia.
Yep. Hmm.
Okay. Annabel Safinia, you are an EFT supervisor all the way in the UK right now, but you spent years in California,
Yes.
built a built a practice there, have a whole thing there.
Hmm.
And now you have joined back with family and friends in London, and you're practicing out of London. And one of the things that I learned about you, which was really interesting, is you have deliberate skill practice groups.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
wonderful. Can you say a little bit about your deliberate skill practice groups, just so people can kind of know about those?
Absolutely. Yeah. I feel really passionately about helping clinicians to really build those foundational EFT skills,
Yeah.
the kind of skills that we learn in the externship and then core skills. But, we kind of skim through them because there's a lot to pack in those days.
Yes.
And when I've been in externship and core skills and talked to the different clinicians, it's become apparent that they're feeling a bit of a gap there in terms of they need to practice
Yes.
and they can organize practice. But I figured, that's something I'm good at. It's something I enjoy doing. Let me put a group together and support these. It could be early stage EFTers, or it could be people who've been in it for a while and they just want to brush up on those fundamental kind of what I call the meat and potatoes of EFT, like how
Yeah.
to do a move 2 in the tango, how to set up a
Love it.
move 3 enactment. It's all the things that we weave through EFT all the time, but just
Right.
getting it so that it's not just like a cognitive understanding, but a
Mhm.
real body felt sense where you can be grounded in it and feel confident in your skills. That's the goal, really. And
Awesome.
so it's just practice, 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 lots of role plays and togetherness and de-shaming.
Awesome. I love that. That's really, really fun. I think that's one of the things that's hard to come across is a commitment to doing role plays
Mm.
after you are done with the training, but they're so valuable because role plays give us an opportunity to try something in a different way than we've done it before and then pause ourselves and go, maybe I'll redo that. Hold on. Let me try this again. Or we get stuck, and it's okay to get stuck in a role play. We don't feel like I will say that again. It's still nerve wracking because you have your colleagues there and all those things are there. But it's not the stakes of having the client in the room with us, right?
Right.
So it gives our body an opportunity to run through something a few times and even teach our body how to do this differently. So that's a lovely offering you have.
Thank you. Yeah, it's exciting. It feels good to me as well to practice role plays.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a muscle that just being able to kind of be creative in the moment
Mhm.
is really fun.
Yeah,
So I
it
enjoy it.
is.
Yeah.
Well, great. Well, let me say I'm very grateful. We're going to jump into some questions here, but I'm really grateful for your time today. What this is it's the Supervision Tapes for the Emotionally Focused Therapy podcast. Michael and Sil are going to be with me actually later today, recording part of season 2. So we will be releasing season 2 coming up later in the summer. But for now, we're taking time to meet with different supervisors. And Annabelle, you are our very first one. So thank you so much. This is the
An honor.
flagship episode of this. And so we're guinea pigging this together. So
Great.
thank you. I will learn so much from this, and I will probably do a better job on the next one. But what we're going to do is we're taking some questions from the audience. So I've got some of those today. And if you're in the chat right now and you have a supervision question you'd like to ask, just pop it in the chat or let me know you'd like to ask it live, and I can see if I can find you and unmute you. But you can pop a question in the chat. So what we'll do is I'm gonna ask the question here, and Annabelle, we're gonna just kind of riff it. And how would you meet a supervisee in this place around these questions? And then we'll see how many can we get done.
Great. We're just going to blaze through them.
There we go. Yeah, yeah. We got all the answers here for you today. All right. Let's see. We're going to start with this question, which I think somebody wrote in about a pursuer problem. And I think I'm thinking of it as like the well-intended, well-minded pursuer. So here's the question. It is, a client of mine has a bad habit of cutting in while their partner is sharing. But it's not like cutting in to like dig at them. They said it's often to restate what their partner is saying. And then they give an example like, I think what you mean is this. And then their partner says, yeah, probably, or something like, yeah, that's pretty accurate. But they keep doing it. And the supervisee is saying, is that part of the cycle? Should I be stopping that as the clinician? It doesn't seem to be causing distress for the other partner, but it also feels like I just can't hear from the one partner. So it's a nice pursuer, it sounds like, who's not cutting in with like criticisms, but is cutting in to reshape and reinterpret or expand what the withdrawer is saying. The withdrawer is not showing any distress around this, which is not a key that there is no distress, right? Let's mark that real fast. But I don't know, what would you say to a situation like this?
It's a good one. I mean, just to echo where you were just going there, Michael, on the outside, it might not look distressing, but
Mhm.
we want to get curious about
Yeah.
what's happening for both parties in that moment. Some withdrawers are experts at not showing any distress.
Yeah, they are.
But on the inside, there's a lot happening, right? It's like the feet under the water, the duck's feet.
That's right. I use that all the time.
Do you? That's a good one. Yeah, so I don't know. I wanna get curious. I wanna slow that down. I don't know what's going on there,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna ask and just say, "Can I slow this down a second? And what's can we just" I noticed that as he was talking, I'm gonna presume. I shouldn't
Yeah,
presume.
yeah, 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 yeah. No, but it's a common presumption, right? I mean, it
Okay.
makes
I'm gonna
sense. I mean,
presume.
it's funny, it's because I'm a male pursuing, like, I definitely have a more earned security today, but my stance was an anxious pursuer. But yes, I don't often fit in with most of the other pursuers.
Yes, 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 yes. Well, let's just say that, the withdrawer is a man and the
Sure.
is a woman. Let's just say that for
That's
argument's sake,
easy
right?
enough.
It's just easy shorthand here. I would say to the pursuing partner, I'd say, I noticed that he was starting to share something, and you're correcting in a way, or you have something to add to this.
Mhm.
I'm kind of curious. Can we go back a few clicks and see what was happening for you as he was describing
Mhm.
what he was saying? What was happening there? You felt you needed to say something.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
what's going on inside for you? What's happening in your mind? Like, what are you telling yourself as he starts to share?
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah,
we
I
sort
think
of explore.
Yeah, I think curiosity there for the pursuing partner. I can remember early on, I was doing a lot of work, but I had a pursuer kind of like this. But what I noticed is there was a lot of anxiety for the pursuer
Right.
around their partner's experience, right? So they were just like, oh, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, okay, okay. One of the things that I found that I find myself thinking about when I read this question was each time the pursuing partner organizes the withdrawer's experience, even when it's accurate, it takes away from the withdrawer's own ability to develop their own language and name the thing that's happening to them, which actually frustrates their cycle because they
Right.
don't learn the ability to do that.
Absolutely. Yes, and so, linking it perhaps if it's relevant, linking it to the bigger concern that they're coming in with. Maybe the complaint is a lack of connection or,
Yeah.
that the withdrawer isn't as available as, I mean, I'm guessing, could
Yeah.
be
I mean,
that
that's a pretty
quite common.
reasonable guess.
Yeah, and so linking it to a bigger cycle, it may be that this is an action tendency of the pursuer,
Yeah.
that they get anxious and jump in, and or that they need. It could be that in arguments that this kind of pursuer is the kind that needs all the details to be exact. When retelling
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
it wasn't exactly like that, it was more like this, or nope, that's not what I said this. That can be an anxious response. And so I
Yeah.
think it even though it doesn't look escalated, I think it's a really nice doorway into the bigger issue.
Yeah, I think so. I would stop and explore it for sure, which can seem, I think one of the things this person may be struggling with is since it's not escalated and they seem to be saying, yeah, that kind of fits. Like, do I stop this? Is this a place for interruption and just saying, hey, what's happening right now? And I think we're both on the same page here. I think it's a great spot to stop
Yeah,
and understand. I mean, I'm not saying if this shows up in your office one time, you don't have to stop your couple, but this
sure.
is talking about a pattern, right? And I want to stop that pattern and get really curious about what's happening and
Yeah.
just to sort it out.
And I think as the therapist, I can really understand maybe feeling a bit self-conscious to call something out like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something that is just in their normal flow that you might feel like, oh, are they gonna kinda look at me like I'm crazy, or are they gonna
Yeah.
minimize what I'm saying or brush it off? And then maybe I'm gonna feel, like not confident in my skills or like in what I'm doing.
Yeah. Yeah. They wonder like, why are you talking about this?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it can
So there
feel a
could be
little
some,
like risky. It's risky
yeah.
to put yourself out there as a therapist and call
Yeah.
something out like that.
Yeah. It's not like when someone makes a critical comment, cutting in with a critical comment and the therapist steps in
Right.
and says, "Hey, can we slow down here?" That makes a lot of sense. But this one can feel like, "Ooh, do I have the right to stop them and cut them in here?" Yeah, I think there's some really good self-help therapists,
Yeah,
like asking yourself, like, "Ooh, okay, what makes me nervous
mm,
internally
yeah,
about maybe stopping this?" And just to get curious about what's happening to them. So I think that's a
yeah.
good place for the therapist to take a look. Cool, great. All right, let's carry on. Here we go. So this one wrote in and said, "My sessions are generally going okay, but I do get sidetracked into other models." So that's pretty common, first of all, right? That we hear that
Mhm,
all the time. Like it's just
mhm.
like whisked away out of the model. They also say, "I will over explain attachment to my clients," very common, or go on some other rabbit trail. When this happens, I notice my time is running out, and then I just say to myself, I'll try EFT again next week. Uh, what can I do to help keep my focus?
Firstly, whoever wrote in on this question, I I love this, it's so honest.
Mhm.
And I can so relate. When I was learning EFT, it was and I would tape and, and then I'd think, "Maybe this is gonna be my certification clip," and at some point I was like, "This is definitely not even EFT." So, again, I can just delete it and I'll try again next time.
Mm,
So I can really relate to this. Learning to stay on mission
mm,
is, I think, it's a hard part of the EFT journey. But I think to be able to stay on mission, you also have to really be intentional about the moves you're making and what you're doing, almost preparing ahead of time. I find it helpful going into a session to really try write out the cycle or go over my
mhm,
call sheet of the client, remember where I was from last week, and get kind of a clear sense of where I want to go in this session.
mhm.
Obviously, if there's new stuff coming up, we'll have to
Yeah,
pivot.
right.
A general direction of like, okay, this is where I am. This is what I'm working on. And the more clarity you can get on that, then the easier it is to stay on mission,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But there's also, a sense of, yeah, if also if you don't feel completely confident in some of your skills, then, there might be a doorway, a window right in front of you, a potential move one as you move into the, to the tango, but you might not know what to do with it. You might not know where to take it or how to catch it. And then perhaps falling back on your own action tendency of going into explaining or,
Yeah.
cognitive, bouncing out into cognitive instead of staying experiential. So I think there's a couple of things. There's some skills to brush up on there, and also possibly some self of therapist of like what's happening inside of you when you start to, maybe start to near some EFT moments, and what happens inside of you that makes you get kicked out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Think, Michael?
No, I think you're spot on. I think the number one thing I think any of us can do in our EFT journey is look at the places that we start
Hmm.
tipping away.
Yes.
And it's likely an internal issue. It's
Right.
not so much an issue with the couple that's showing up. It's something that happens to us. I will often say, more often than not, the blocks that you get in the model of EFT has nothing to do with how smart you are, how good of a therapist you are, or whether or not like you understand the tango itself. It has to do with like something got triggered in you and you move to a place that feels more comfortable and helps regulate your nervous system. That's what we all do. And so, on the one hand, reps, 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 reps. Like you got to keep doing this work. The thing that you can do to help, I think, is watch your tape. And one of the things that I do is during my session, if something happens internally for me, like I move into judgment, right? And I just go like, ooh, I'm like, I can feel myself being pinged. I will
Mhm,
look at my clock
mhm,
and I will write down what time it is.
mhm.
And then I will go back to the tape. So I know about what time something happened. And I will watch a little bit before that and keep backing it up and kind of understand what really pinged me, what hit me, what threw me off my game here. And study that, listen to what the client was saying, and then really try to sit myself back in my body and say, what happened to me that pushed me over here? Having done that many, many times, it's nice because I go, okay, I'm going to park that for self and I know where I'm going to put it, but I also have a job to do. So I've got to come back to my focus. But I have a place to go deal with that. I might take it to group supervision. I might call an EFT friend of mine. Lots of places I can take that. But at least I found a way to park it in the session and get
Mm.
back to my focus.
Yes, I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so really kind of taking the time to identify the exact moment that you
Mhm.
started to, get kicked out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Probably, if you were to line up a bunch of tapes where that happened, it would probably be a similar
I
feeling,
can imagine. Right.
right?
Yeah.
And then you get to identify, oh, this is the place that I feel less confident in.
Yeah.
Or for me, it used to be, and this was kind of when I was trying to get certified, this place I kept having to work on was with withdrawers and really learning to kind of walk towards their emotional experience when they were trying to avoid it.
Yeah.
For me, it was, I wanted to collude with them in the avoidance. Like I learned that really well in my lived experience,
Yeah.
in my personal world. I learned how to do that. And so
Yeah.
here I am in an EFT session doing what exactly? The
Yeah. Yeah.
opposite?
Yeah. You want me
That's
to go chase
okay.
it?
Yeah, like absolutely not. That would mean danger, danger, danger.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't chase it. I would collude. And of course, then we couldn't really get very far. But it was when I was able to work on that in supervision and have an experience with my supervisor that helped me to go deeper and understand what was happening for me. Honestly, it was done. It was
Yeah.
done and I never went back.
Oh,
And
that's
as in
awesome.
I never went back to the colluding.
Right. 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 Yeah. I
Uh
I know
yeah.
for me, it was like one of my struggle points was always, not not trusting partners to take care of their partner and just running enactments through me.
Uh-huh.
Uh, I had a wonderful supervisor that paused, a tape I was showing one day, and he goes, "You keep doing enactments through you." And I was like, "Yeah, uh-huh." And he goes, "What's going on?" And I was like, "I don't trust anybody to that they're not
Mhm,
gonna do this well,
mhm.
right? They're gonna drop their partner. I've worked too hard." And he gave me some really, really lovely feedback around, yeah. I mean, he goes, You're probably right.
Right.
They probably will drop each other. And he said, but the goal of EFT isn't that you come in and model how to dance for people and then let them go home and try dancing. He goes, the model of EFT is presently helping them dance with each other. And if you don't step out of the way, they'll never learn to dance together. And I was like, man, that means I gotta have them share directly. Right. But it was a moment where I found myself bumping into my own fear,
Hmm.
and instead of staying in and leaning in the model, I'm not saying we never run things through us, but I was just doing it all the time, right?
Yeah, well, you're talking about an action tendency of your own
That's right.
when you bump up against fear, right?
That's right.
And your own cycle with the client,
Ah,
and that's something to do something with, isn't it? Of course, we must run enactments through us when we need to, but you're identifying something else. I think that's it. It's that's I think that's the best thing we can do as EFT therapists is really understand our own role in the room and how
that's it.
our own stuff shows up.
Yeah.
It's like we're there too.
Yeah, that it is the thing about this model more than any other model I've heard of. I mean, the level of self-of-therapist work in this model is massive, and just the continual requirement almost for self-reflection, group reflection, looking at our work, and really understanding what's happening here. It's profound. It's really one thing I love about this model. One thing I love about my group that I go to and have been going to for almost 6 years. And I go every other week for group supervision because it's so valuable, especially in this model, to keep looking at the places we are getting stuck and losing our focus.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. It's beautiful. And we've got,
All
yeah,
right.
so many support systems in place for that. We're very lucky.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially in this career. So few places where people are able to take their work. Thanks for the comment, Lisa. I'm glad you're appreciating the conversation here. Let's carry on to the next question, shall we?
Yeah, let's go. Yeah.
All right. So this one is a question about a withdrawer. And they wrote in saying, I have a withdrawer that whenever I ask them to turn to share with their partner, they sort of laugh a bit. And then when they do share with their partner, it seems so far removed from their experience. Yeah, that tracks. That it becomes more like a report to their partner than a risk. Ooh, I like the way they said that.
Mm,
I that's really like I like
mm.
ours. Like I like what are those called when you put letters together? Like report, risk. I like those.
Oh,
Yes. So that was a
uh-huh.
really good one. How can I help them stay with it when they turn and talk to their partner?
Right.
Yeah. I love that. How do we help the withdrawer not report but take a
Yeah.
risk?
And are we presuming here that, the move to was deep enough, rich enough?
It reads like that because it reads
Yeah.
like, it kind of reads like there's some level of engagement.
Yeah.
'Cause they say it seems so far removed from their experience. So let's
Right.
go ahead and assume we've got a withdrawer kind of engaged with that emotion when they're talking with us. They turn to their
Mhm.
partner and they more so report
Yeah,
what
yeah,
they've
yeah.
just engaged in with
Totally.
us.
Right.
That's a tricky spot.
Totally, totally. What's coming up for me there is that it's one thing for the withdrawer to share with us, and to engage with their
Yeah.
emotions with us, right? But the moment that it becomes about sharing that with their partner,
Mm,
something activates.
yeah,
That's what I'm hearing.
yeah.
And the sort of going from emotional engagement with us to immediate turn and share may just be too thick of a slice.
Mm,
And so then I would wanna kinda just go, let's slow down. Let's walk this back a second. Over here
mm,
with me, this is where we were. And then when you turn to your partner, this is what happened, right? So I would
yeah.
describe what I saw and just check it out with them. Can we, I'd go right back in and just say, what just happened there?
Yeah. Now you're naming very present process focus. What
Yeah.
just happened right now in the room?
Yeah.
You were here with me, showing up in a particular way, and then when you turned to your partner, it changed, right?
Exactly.
Something happened to you
Yeah.
and it switched. It can also happen on the pursuer side, by the way, but the pursuer side can often have like an emotional, like have tears in their eyes with
Mm.
us, right? And you can see they're really deeply engaged in their emotions. Hey, can you turn and share this with your partner? And they turn and they go, you always do this. And it's like suddenly it's like they're in the cycle and
Right,
here
right,
comes the
right.
criticism, right? That can happen there too.
Yeah.
on the other side. And you're exactly spot on. We are, you know, I would say, first of all, we talked about this a lot on the EFT podcast, but when this stuff happens, you haven't done anything wrong. So
Yeah.
often that's the moment the
Right.
therapist can say, okay, what is the trick to make him stay engaged?
Mhm.
And it's like,
Mhm.
actually,
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to in that moment, right?
And it's okay if he doesn't. It's all just
It's
grist for the mill, right? It's like, now we're getting more information.
yeah. I think people worry that if I would have just done this thing,
Yeah.
they would have stayed engaged. And what
Mm.
you were naming is really important for people to hear, that you haven't done anything wrong. If your withdrawer turns and starts reporting, you're actually bumping into his attachment system,
Yes.
because there's no harm that usually there's not a lot of harm between us and the client, right? There's
Mhm.
not years of harm that they have to
Mhm.
protect themselves from.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit more of an openness in the engagement. But then they turn to the person who they have experienced hurt from, the person who they get into a cycle with, and the person who they care about deeply. And so suddenly you see their protection. And that just makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And
Right.
leaning in that moment and helping people go present process. What is happening to you right now? So, what are you generally expecting to hear that is kind of a conceptual way of understanding withdrawers? Like, what are you
Mm.
kind of expecting is happening inside of that withdrawer when we are talking and it's engaged and then turn to their partner and it's not engaged anymore?
Right, and there was like a laugh, right? Sort of a
Yeah, yeah,
little
like,
laugh.
ah, okay.
Uh, okay. Right, a distancing. Yeah. You know, I'm expecting them to say something like, well, it just feels really awkward. It's
Mm,
really uncomfortable. And if I probed deeper to say something like, well, I'm afraid like they'll think makes me look weak, or
mm.
this is, they're gonna, I don't know,
I
they're
think
gonna
you're right.
criticize me, or they're gonna, think I'm stupid. I mean, we need to look at kind of what the cycle is, but it's going to be something that's shown up in their cycle, some of the meaning that they make about it. Or, if I admit this to my partner, then they're going to see my flaws. They're going to see that I'm
Yeah.
not really strong. I don't really have it together. And part of withdrawing is to preserve how my partner sees me, and
Right.
also to keep things calm between us. If I start talking about how I feel, I tell myself that's all going to go wrong.
Yep. Yep.
Right. So
I love that.
be any of that really.
I would expect a lot of the same, and it's a great opportunity to, like, really begin to hear, like, the deep, vulnerable story that runs their action tendency. So
Yeah.
I love it when an action tendency shows up in the room, which I have not always loved it, obviously, based on the story I just shared, where I was like, "No, you're not bringing your action tendency into my room." But I have learned to
Yeah,
love these moments
right.
because of the ability to go present process and invite people to share what happened, because it's so much more vulnerable to turn to your partner, look them in the eye, and say the vulnerable thing to the person who you don't want to see you as weak, right? I know that, like, I've heard withdrawers say things like, "Who would I be in their eyes if I wasn't this person?"
Mhm.
Right? I wouldn't be the person that they married. I wouldn't be the person they could rely on. What if
Yeah.
they saw me as someone who is unreliable? Right?
Yeah.
So these narratives start coming forward a lot more clearly when their action tendency shows up in the room.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then, once that's been explored a little bit, if they're talking about the fear of sharing, then I'll test that out, right, in a thinner slice of like,
Yeah.
well, how what would it be like to just share that with your partner? Right. But this
Yeah.
is scary. Scary to talk about this. It's scary to even have you hear me talk about this with a therapist.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something like that. That's just, it's just a baby step.
Yeah.
If we
Yeah, I
take little
love
baby
that.
steps, then we're gonna get somewhere.
That's a really good example of, if you've heard the term slicing it thinner, that's a great example of slicing it thinner. Being able to acknowledge the fear that stops it right now, and even be able to say, like, it's one thing to share this with the therapist, but it gets really scary to turn and share it with you.
Yeah.
That's a lovely slicing it thinner. Like, even
Mhm.
now, that's hard to do. Right. So
Yeah.
that's fantastic. I also want to say to this, the person that wrote this in, the fact that that's happening, it does tell us you're in the right spot. So if you see that action tendency show, you happen to be knocking on the right door. So stay there, keep
Yeah.
knocking on that door, and help them hold the present process when that comes in. I think, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this as well, Annabelle. If you will go present process with them in that moment, like willing to come back to that spot and say, hey, I see it happening even now, right? That thing we've talked about before. It's going to happen more than once. If you will keep doing that,
Mm-hmm.
in time, you will first begin to see the withdrawer catching themselves, like, "Oh, I'm kind of doing that, aren't I?" And
Mm-hmm.
then you will see them begin to stop doing it, right?
Yes.
They will build the safety to do that. What do you think?
I agree because what you're doing there is you're making their action tendency conscious,
Mhm.
and you're bringing awareness to it and linking it to the emotion, which is most likely fear in that case. And that's essentially what we're doing is we're making the cycle conscious, that
That's right.
person's side of the street, and the more conscious they get with it, the more conscious it becomes, then they have more choice to then be able to look at it and do something different. So I think that's the right way to go for
Yeah.
sure. Um, and it also will help to normalize it because each time they do it, if we as the therapist validate, why they're doing it and they're understanding and non-shaming about it, that will help them be in relationship to it differently as
Mm.
well. And
Yeah.
I think that will help.
It's a rich moment,
It
right?
is.
Listen to all that we were just talking about. It's like, man,
Yeah,
it's a rich moment,
right.
a rich available moment where we can begin to validate and de-shame and help them begin a bodily experience of going, "Ooh, this is that place," where they begin to notice it. Kind of that reintegrating all of those disowned parts of self, like beginning to pull them back in so they can notice, "I'm doing that thing." So it's a rich, rich EFT opportunity when people do things like this.
Right, which makes me kind of want to say to all the EFT therapists out there who doubt themselves in moments like that
Mm,
or want to go into self-blame, to really learn this piece of like learning, like you were saying, Michael, to love it when these action tendencies show up, to see them as action tendencies,
yeah,
to really put your EFT hat on and see, okay, it's not like I did something wrong here. This
yeah.
is my EFT hat tells me just to get curious and
Mhm.
explore instead of going into my own shame. So, this is there are so many rich moments. And if we just fall back into shame and I did something wrong, we miss all of that.
I
So,
think this is such an important conversation. So many EFT therapists, like this is hard because in our session, right, the enactment is the live wire moment, right? We're kind of handing the reins over to the clients for a moment, and this is where it can go wonky.
yeah.
And what this person is naming is like this thing is showing up, and like I was saying, the pursuer can do it too by throwing a jab instead of a vulnerable narrative. And that can be hard to deal with from the therapist perspective. Like, oh no, maybe I didn't say it clearly enough for them. Maybe I didn't set that enactment up just right. And we can get really into the critical self around what we're doing in our work, or we can steady ourselves
Yes.
and go, this is that moment, you know, of opportunity. What were you going to
Mm-hmm.
say there?
I was just going to say that I think also, if we're having supervision around a moment like that, it will be important to check out as well, like how was the move to? Did it go deep enough
Oh,
and
yeah,
rich
yeah, yeah,
enough
yeah.
as well? Because I do hear this a lot from supervisees that
Yeah.
that's the part they're struggling with. And then the enactment doesn't feel rich. And
No.
that's a slightly different angle than what we're
That's
talking
a
about.
that's a really good point, right?
Yeah.
It might be you need to tweak your move to
It
a
might
little bit.
be, and we can check that out too. I think it's healthy to question that, but
Yeah,
if the move to was
absolutely.
adequate, then it's this other thing that we're talking about, this other angle.
Yeah, 100%. That's a really good point. So let's put a period on that one.
Yep,
That's
period.
very important. Really, really great question. Thank you. Because I do hear that such a
Mhm.
frequent moment when things start to go awry. What happens there? So then let's see here. Yeah, so we've got two self of therapist questions coming here.
Okay.
So this first one says, I notice myself with a few clients overly identifying with one person's experience. Like I start thinking they are right and their partner really is the problem. Okay. First of all, guilty. Does this happen to y'all or to you all? And how do you manage this?
Mhm.
So this actually, the self of the therapist. They're sharing their self with the therapist, but they're actually asking us to share our self of the therapist.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
this is So great question. And of course, yes, all the time this can happen. I hear it all the time. I experience it myself,
Yeah.
especially when you do identify with the client. If that client's a pursuer and you're a pursuer, if they're a withdrawer and you're a withdrawer, like you really get it. I think the good news here is that you are really aligned and in full empathy with that client. So
Mhm.
that's actually a good thing.
I like that. That's good.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. It means you get them, right?
Mhm.
I try to sort of for myself think of it like, okay, there's personal me and there's EFT therapist me.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And I try to, I kind of like parts work with myself
Yep.
of, okay, personal me is feeling this way about it. And I'll need to download that in supervision or consultation or with a friend. I'll need to say like, this is just to kind of get all of that out to the point then that I can go into put my EFT hat on and say, okay, let's look at what's getting activated here. There is this cycle that they have that I'm getting drawn into. I'm
Mm.
becoming part of the cycle, right? I'm aligning with the pursuer or withdrawer, and me thinking that they're right and feeling angry at the other partner or critical or whatever is it's an action tendency.
Mhm.
And I'm getting drawn into that action tendency. So if I pull myself out and put my EFT hat on, then I can move back into let's look at your cycle, let's look at what's happening here, but not get drawn into it myself.
Yeah.
There's so much more to say on this, but I'll throw it back to you, Michael.
Alright. No, I think about it as these are different hats we wear, right?
Yeah.
And I can say different hats I wear or parts of myself. First of all, yes, very guilty of this. I mean, there are times I'm working with people and I'm like, "Ooh, like, I would love to go have a pint with so and so partner," and then it's like, "Oh, okay, well, hold on." That over-identifying there as well. And so, yeah, because we're human, right? The reality of being an EFT therapist is and I think this is a hard part about being a therapist is we often forget that we are just human beings as well. And of course, we're going to over identify with clients at times. And of course, certain people's stories are going to tug at us and tug at our heart in a particular way when they touch, parts of our own story. And then if that story has a move similar to the other partner's move, and it's like, oh, I remember what it's like to be on the receiving end of that move. Yes, because we're human beings. So I want to say, first of all, be really kind with yourself here. Offer
Mhm.
yourself a lot of human graciousness to continue to be a human, even when you're doing a professional job as an EFT therapist. So, first, be gentle. If you're not gentle with yourself here, you just get locked into it more and more.
Totally. Totally.
And and then I would go back to what I said a little bit earlier when I said that happens to me and I
Hmm.
write it down. I recording my sessions is part of my intake paperwork.
Hmm.
So most of my sessions are recorded. Sometimes people ask me to, but maybe that's 2 or so of my clients at a
Hmm.
time. But what that affords me to do is there's no way I could watch all that tape. It's not about watching all that tape. There's no way I could transcribe it all. There's no way I can show every session to supervisors, but it does afford me an opportunity to go back. And when I write that time down where something bumped into me, a lot of times that is like I'm over identifying with this person. What is happening there? And I can begin to understand it more. Just get
Yes.
curious with myself, try to take a non judgmental stance with myself,
Yeah.
and spend some time in the invaluableness of group supervision,
Hmm.
having good EFT relationships. Some of my best friends are EFT therapists, and
Yes.
they're my closest friends. I can call them like
Hmm.
right now. I could probably call one right now and get her on the line and put her on the microphone to say hello to everybody, or she'll call me back by end of day. And that's a place where I can take these things and say, "Ooh, I see myself. This story keeps coming up, and I find myself thinking this about this partner, this is this about that partner," and we'll sit there and chat about it
Hmm.
as much as we are asking our clients to do these things with their partner, this is where it comes part of our life as well. Are we bringing these things to others and checking them in and talking about it? Or are we trying to deal with it in isolation? So just get really curious and be very gracious with yourself.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Yeah, and it's I like to get curious about like what is the block to empathy for the other partner.
Oh,
Yeah, as
yeah,
in
that part too.
right, as in like me as a therapist, if I'm identifying, let's say, with the pursuer and I can't find empathy for the withdrawer, and I'm just in criticism and blame with the withdrawer, right? I try to, for myself, I try to, my kind of like hack in a way is to really think about that withdrawer as
Mm,
a young, vulnerable person in their
yeah.
family of origin, and where this, whatever action tendency they're doing that the pursuer is hating, look at where did that begin for them?
Mm,
Why did they need to develop this action tendency? And think about them as a vulnerable person, young person that had to develop this action tendency from a place of pain, survival,
yeah.
and then when I see them as a young self, then it's much easier for me to have empathy.
Yeah. Yeah. I So we're saying here it might not just solely be over identification with one partner.
Right.
It also is a bit of like, I don't want to empathize with something happening over here,
Yes.
or that move in particular is difficult to deal with.
Yes.
And the phrase I use often with supervisees is I say, let's find the reasonable reason for the unreasonable thing we're seeing. Right.
Yes.
And I'll say unreasonable in air quotes because it feels unreasonable. And that's what the judgment's coming from. And I think Sue talked about it with a couple she did a live with where the husband kept calling the wife fat and she was struggling with it. But it was a real commitment to there's something happening here. There's something happening here. And she just had to keep staying with it until I could find the person behind the protection. And that's such a beautiful phrase of like, can I sit with this long enough to find the person behind the protection? Because then my compassion comes back. And then it's like, oh, no wonder, right? No wonder you're doing this. This makes complete sense to me. It's easy when I identify with the client's move
Mm-hmm.
and I know there's a reasonable reason. It's hard when I forget there's a reasonable reason they're doing what they're doing.
Yes, right. That's it. And that's something I do tell my supervisees or encourage them to really embody this idea that not is there a person behind the protection, but there is a person
There
behind
is
the
a
protection.
person. Right.
Let's find that person, right? That kind of core knowing that that is the situation, that is the case, there is someone there. We got to find them.
Yeah, it's just that is the baseline truth we're dealing with.
Baseline truth.
Right. And we
That's much
really
the
hold
North
that true.
Star.
It's hard to hold that, that unconditionally of there is a person behind the protection. No matter what I'm seeing, there's a person behind the protection. Right. Ooh.
And we might be the only person in the world that
Mm,
holds that truth for this person. Maybe no one else
right.
has ever held that truth.
Yeah. No one else has stayed with the protection long enough, right, to let them know it's safe to come out behind it. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And uh, first of all, I want to say we get it. I mean, some protections are hard to stay with, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
All right. We have one more self therapist question. We've got about 7 minutes, and we're gonna come
Gonna
into it
nail
here.
it.
Here we go. We're gonna land this plane really well. All
Hmm.
right. This is an escalation question. It feels like my entire session goes terribly wrong when someone escalates in my session. I
Hmm.
struggle to get things back on track and then feel like I've really let them down. Okay. So there's that self therapist, like critical talk again. And then they just said, send help.
We're
So,
sending out. We're responding. Wow. Yeah,
no,
I get it. It's similar, very similar to a couple of questions ago when
yeah.
the withdrawer reports instead of does the rich enactment, right? So this therapist is saying that when it escalates, they feel like they're doing something wrong.
Yeah. So when they can't get it back on track,
They can't get back on
right?
track.
So it escalates at some point during the session, and then once it escalates, the rest of the session just it's lost.
Right,
It goes terribly wrong. I can't
right,
get them back on track.
right, right. Well, it sounds like they're panicking a bit in that moment when it escalates, right? Like I kind of wonder what they're telling themselves about that moment. If it's going to kind of like, oh, something bad is happening here,
Yes.
then a therapist panicking is now probably not, got access to all of their
Yeah.
tools.
Yep.
And, you
This
know,
is hard.
maybe go into freeze, right? I've certainly gone into freeze before with
Sure.
a client,
Sure.
and then you sort of like deer in the headlights, and it's just going and going, right?
Yep.
I think, again, just there's the personal you, and then there's the EFT therapist you, and really trying to remember, like, this is just they're showing you their cycle. This,
Hmm.
this is a gift. Nothing is wrong here.
Yeah.
And of course, we want to slow it down because we don't
Yeah.
want
Yeah.
them to go after each other and
Yeah.
repeat in the session what they just do at home. But if we can just buy some time,
Yeah.
right, to slow things down, interrupt them, have them talk to you, take the focus off their partner, just really try to kind of hold them where
Hmm.
they are to stop it going further and ground into this knowing of like, okay, we're just back in the cycle.
Right. That's just
That's
where
all.
we are.
This is where we are.
I'll challenge you to say a withdrawer who turns to their partner and reports is probably easier to see as a gift than an escalated client. But but we do agree they're both gifts, right?
They are. They
They're
are.
both gifts, right?
Yeah. Nothing's wrong. They're just showing you what happens for
Nothing's
them.
wrong.
That's what we want in stage 1. We want to see it in the room so that we can then do something with it. It's much
Yeah.
easier. I mean, I won't say easier. It's very valuable to have them show it to us live in the room because then we can work with it. It's
Yeah.
live, now it's experiential. We get to feel it in our own bodies. So,
Yeah.
there's like nothing bad is happening here. But I get it. Like, yeah, like the freeze is a real thing.
It's a real thing. Yep. And I think that's a very common around, unless you grew up around yelling and fighting.
Uh-huh.
I grew up around yelling and fighting, so the quick escalation is just kinda like, "Let me crack my knuckles and get to work here," right? Like, "Okay,"
Yeah.
right? Just another Sunday brunch.
I know.
So
Yeah.
unless you have that in your system a lot, it can be so jarring and
Yes.
really uncomfortable to, "How do I step in and get a hold of this thing?" And what I often say is the very difficult thing about escalation like this is because it will dysregulate the therapist for a moment, and
Yeah.
especially when it's like, "Oh, I don't think I can get this." If the panic stays, a dysregulated system isn't going to regulate the dysregulated systems in front of you. So we have to find a way to help slow things down. Like in trainings in London, they do like an escalated role play. I can remember Sandra would just say, "You've got to get it to stop. Whatever,
Mhm.
just get it to stop because it's not until you get it to stop. There's nothing we can do." So, she's standing there shouting, "Hey, hey, hey, hey!" Right? And I think about it like a runaway Western, style carriage, right, with the horse and
Mm,
the carriage, and
mhm,
it's running away.
mhm.
And the first, if you're going to stop the runaway carriage, you got to catch it first. No, you got to catch up to the carriage. So you have to use your energy a bit to catch up to the clients because they're moving so quickly. So you've got to find that energy in you to go, "Hey, whoa, whoa." If you're on Zoom, this is really hard. All of my work is on Zoom. And
Mhm.
I'll turn my camera off, turn it back on, turn my camera off, turn it back on, like, whoa, 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 right?
That's
We
good.
can't
I've never
do
done
this.
that one. That's a good
Yeah.
one.
I've had to get creative, especially
Ah,
right in the beginning of Zoom. Most of my clients are fairly far settled down, but I started in the middle of COVID and it was wild. I mean, people were
yeah.
unhappy. But we have to find some energy to grab hold, catch them. And then I think about a whole Western movie in my head, and then I'm jumping. Like this is literally how it plays out in my head while I'm doing this in session. I jump off my horse onto their horse, and then I grab the reins and I say, "Hey, yes, yes, I see it, right, right."
Yeah,
And it's
that's
like that,
great. I
but
love
that's what's
that.
going on in my head,
So good. So good. Yeah.
and it's tough.
Yeah, it is tough. It is tough. And, you know, um, yeah, it's a lot of pressure to feel like,
Hmm.
you have to like stop this happening, or if it happens, it's bad. I think a good outcome in a session like that is not just like, did I stop it happening, but did I also try to get them to recognize this pattern that they get caught in?
Right.
Because ultimately, that's what we're trying to do in stage 1, isn't it?
That's
To
right.
bring some awareness to how, what the escalation is about. What is it linked to? Where did it come from? Let's slow it down and drop them down a bit deeper into their experience so that, they don't just get stuck in the fight. So,
Right.
any amount of that we can do is a bonus.
Mm,
Try not to be too hard on yourselves. It is
yeah.
hard. I love your metaphor though, Michael. That's great. I'm going to use that from now
Good.
on.
Good.
Me riding on a horse.
Yeah. I bet you are so right in all of this thing. And what is so important, I think, as a supervisor, when I'm working with any supervisee is, are you able to be gentle with yourself here? because you're not going to get better at this model if you're flogging yourself for every moment that you think has gone wrong. I love you're on team nothing's wrong, which is great to hear. Nothing's gone wrong. It's just the cycle showing up again. And what a lovely gift as we can help them see this is that cycle that comes up. This is what happens at home.
Okay.
Nothing new here. So
No
I
big deal.
love it. Well, Annabelle, thank
Did
you
we make
so
it? We
much.
made
We've
it.
made it. Yes, we've made it and then some. But I want to say thank you so much because you've given your time and your wisdom to the EFT community here, just to take a moment to spend with me to answer questions. I feel really grateful to get to know you and just for your time and wisdom today.
Well, thank you for having me, Michael. It was such a joy and pleasure, and we haven't really met properly, so this is
No,
nice to get to know you and answer these questions and just kind of riff off of it. And
yeah.
yeah, anytime I'm here.
All right. Well, that
Yeah.
sounds good. I'm glad to know you're right there.
Yes.
If you want to join, you can join this live recording and put your comments in the chat as we talk or ask your questions in the chat as we talk. The next recording, I should have this ready.
In 2 weeks
I think it is in 2 weeks. Look at you.
with Grazel.
Look at you.
I did. I read the email.
You've done your research, huh? Yes, yes. If you want to join for a live recording, you can join at our Riverside studio online on May 1st at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time or 3 p.m. Pacific Time. It's going to be a late one for those in the UK. But Grazel Garcia will be joining us. She has a new book coming out on neurodiversity. So that's going to be a big part of our discussion. So join if you can. Annabelle, if someone wanted to find you, and said, I love what you're talking about, and I'm really appreciating your perspective, how would they find you for EFT supervision?
You can find me if you're in the US through my website, calrelationshipclinic.com. I'm on there, or in the UK, annabelsafinia.com. So you can just come to my website, reach me through that, or email me, annabelsafinia@gmail.com, either one, any of those options.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with us again. We look forward to seeing everybody here. Thank you to those who joined our live here and shared their comments. It's good to see you all. And until next time, all right, take care.